Happy Self Love Sunday. I am Mo Sass, your host of Self Love Sundays with Sass. I am your certified vision and empowerment extreme execution coach who comes here every single Sunday so we can talk about all the ways in which we can better our best. And before we get into it, I just want to get into my hoodie, okay? First of all, y'all may not be able to see this, but it says spread love on the back with the dog, which is Polo. And I wanted to show this sweatshirt because it's from a really good friend of mine who started this company, and he goes around and he literally spreads love with his dog all around the city of New York. He also comes out to PA and stuff. He does a lot of like events. But what I love about this line is this is not just a line where we're, buying hoodies. No, he actually gives back to the community. So far, he's donated over $200,000 in donations. His dog Polo has given out over 50,000 hugs. Who I have a video of me hugging Polo. It's so funny. He is the most adorable dog ever. And he's changed lives just by going around and spreading and giving love, not just through money, but through his time. And I wanted to rep my boy today and tell you that you can actually go on the website and purchase this. I will put the link in my bio, but it's www.polo, P-O-L-O, spreadslove.com. www.polospreadslove.com. Again, I'll put it in the link down below. But Joshua is everything, y'all. And here's the thing, I only endorse people who live the words that they speak, and he is absolutely adorable. So wanted to just start it off with that. All right, and so just get into it, because all November we've been talking about what we can say no to today that will help us get to our yes for tomorrow. And last week I gave you some books, and if you didn't get a chance to check it out, please go back and check it out. And let me know if you purchased the books, because again, I don't come here to talk to the talk, y'all. Okay, I come here that with the hope and the prayer that something that I say will help transform your life. And so I was reading a quote, and this really like kickstarted me on what I wanted to talk about today. And it says, forgiveness does not change the past, but it does enlarge the future. Forgiveness does not change the past, but it does enlarge the future. And why am I talking about this today? Because I want to talk about saying no to holding on. Like, we can no longer hold on to the resentment and the anger of the past. We can't do it, y'all. Yesterday, literally yesterday. And for those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you had a wonderful time with your family. So my family actually came to my house and spent the night. That's huge for me. If you know me, you know, okay? I'll just say that. But I'm going to kind of talk about the benefits of forgiveness right from the door, because I had such a great time with my mother, my father, my sister. My sister came up from Germany, and we were like bugging out, laughing and joking. My mother with her little T-Rex arms was trying to like pull me off the couch, but we were having such a great time. And that's the power of forgiveness. That's the power of forgiveness, because so many of us hold on to resentment and of old angers and feelings towards things that happened to us when we were younger with our parents. And let me just give a disclaimer right here, right now, in this moment. When I talk about forgiveness, I want to be very clear that if you have experienced some sort of, I would say, trauma that is very severe, and severity, look, is different for different people, then I'm going to tell you right now that when it comes to that, I believe that when in the topic of forgiveness, it should be in a healthy, safe container with a therapist. And that's just my disclaimer on that. So please know that I'm not taking your pain or the severity of what you have gone through lightly. No. And as I go on with this video, you'll get to hear a little bit of my story, so you'll understand that a little bit more. But I just want to say that up front. What happened, the things with me and my parents, I've considered to be the typical thing that kind of happen with kids and their parents, of misunderstandings and all that stuff. So as a result of that, as a result of me doing my work, as a result of me doing my work. Do you hear me? I didn't say my parents doing any work. As a result of me doing my work, it allowed for us to have such a wonderful time. And I wanted to reiterate me doing my work, because I'm just going to go back a little bit. I started doing these videos, this self-love Sundays with Sass, I want to say like 2017. And the reason why I did that is because things weren't going right in my life the way I wanted them to go. So I set out on this journey to really understand what it meant to love myself, because I would be with people and it was like, you have to love yourself. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, I love myself, right? And then I realized I didn't. I realized that I was allowing things to happen to me. I realized that I was allowing some of my past hurts and traumas and triggers to still be dictating my life. And I'm like, man, I'm running around here saying I'm in control of my life, but I'm not. But then I said, I love myself enough. This is when you know you love yourself. I love myself enough to do the work. I love myself enough to go back in and heal the trauma that happened in my past. I love myself enough to work on my body and maintain health in terms of working out. I love myself enough to be honest with myself, to self assess. I love myself enough to say that I am going to be, I'm not just going to come here and say one thing and do another. I am going to be the CEO of my life. And that means I'm going to take my power back by no longer allowing the past people, whether it's friendships or relationships, the man that touched me when I was 13, to dictate my life, because I realized I still was a puppet on their string. And a lot of people don't realize that. It's like, why am I acting and doing the things that I'm doing? Why am I not happy in relationships? Why I'm not having good relationships? Why everything is imploding? The common denominator of some of that may be your lack of forgiveness, not just for others, but for yourself. Okay. And so I want to go back and let's start with the definition, because I think the definitions are so important. So when I looked up the definition of forgiveness, and remember, forgiveness can mean different things to different people, but I'm going to go to the book. Okay. So the definition for forgiveness says the action or process of forgiving or being forgiven, right? So then I wanted to dig a little bit further, and I wanted to go into Psychology Today, which is one of my favorite publications. And I want to know how psychologists defined forgiveness. And they define it as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards a person or a group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. I love both of these definitions, because guess what they do not say? They don't say the person was right. They don't say that your feelings are invalid. It does not say that you have to, in order to forgive, you have to say that you're going to forget it. It says nothing about that. Because when we talk about forgiveness, a lot of times people be like, well, I'm not going to forget. And, it's like, I'm not letting them off the hook. Not one definition says that. As a matter of fact, what you don't realize is the forgiveness is letting you off the hook. You want to be a boss of your life. You want to be a CEO of your life. You no longer want to play victim. And I know people be like, what does she mean by play victim? Sometimes I hit my clients in the head with that, and they're like, what? Here's the thing. When I speak about victimhood, a victim is a person who allows anything to happen. It's like, I have no control. I have no say. I'm just a victim. Well, when you say that you're the CEO of your life, there is no more time to play victim. That means that I say who, I say when, I say what, I say how. I will not be a victim in this life, right? And so a part of that is me taking the reins back and taking the control back from the things that happen in my life. And the way to do that is forgiveness. And so again, and I'm going to go right to the biggest one. The man who touched me when I was 13 years old. Now, let me tell you something. That forgiveness had nothing to do with him. But what I realized that was what was happening to me was he was dictating things. Even me being a mom, I was so afraid to let my kids go over people's homes. They couldn't spend the night anywhere. I was like this mother hover, like I was hovering all over them. Like literally, I remember my daughter, the cheerleader, wanting to go on a trip with her friends, and I was like having an anxiety attack. That's how much fear had set in, because I had not healed the trauma and I had not forgiven the situation. Like for real, for real. And so a lot of times, even in relationships, ladies and gentlemen, when you hold on to whatever and I've seen this. Let me tell you, I had a good friend who could not let go of what happened with him and his ex. So he gets in a new relationship with this beautiful woman, and every time they get into it, it was always about, it was, oh, I seen this behavior, it's like her, and could not let go of the ex, and eventually their relationship imploded, because that's what's going to happen if you don't forgive that. If you don't forgive the wound, if you don't forgive the person, if you don't heal and you bring it into your next relationship, and all you're doing is talk about all the bad that they did and this and the other, and you're putting that on the other person, no one can deal with that. I'm just going to tell you right now. And it's not our job. It's not the other person's job to love that out of you. It is your job to love yourself enough to say that I'm going to heal this. I'm going to heal my past so that I can have a beautiful present, therefore an abundant future. It is your job to heal yourself. This is why relationships and friendships fall apart, because we're going in there and we're just bleeding all over these people who have nothing to do with it. And most times they have no idea what happened in your life. And then we have those who hold on to the anger and resentment so much that they isolate themselves. And so when I was researching this, and I was like, what is, like, people really want to know, like, the benefit. What is the benefit of forgiveness? And you heard me say the benefit for me was, me having a wonderful time with my family for Thanksgiving. And it wasn't no drama, and it wasn't nobody walking on eggshells. Like, we really just had a really good time. But I'm gonna give you some real benefits in people. This is for people who are currently in relationships. Why is it important to forgive after arguments? Friendships. Why is it important to forgive? Even with your children and your parents, why is it important to forgive? Because most times when you get into that, just think about how you feel in your body, right? Your blood pressure is up, you're stressed out, you can't sleep, right? You're walking around and you're just angry and you're bitter, and no one wants to be around that. And then you don't wonder why nobody wants to be around you, because you're draining. You're 100% draining. All you talk about is what the ex did and what my husband did, and you dog the other person out. You talk bad about them, and then you wonder why it's not getting better. It's so funny that I just got off a conference call with my mentor, and he talked about the words that you speak. The last word that you speak out of your mouth would become your first action. So if the last word you're speaking about your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your friends is negative and nasty, guess what? That shows up. Even if you don't say it out your mouth, it shows in your energy. Okay, energy is real. So again, I want to get to some of the benefits of why it's important to effectively communicate and heal and forgive. It lowers your risk of heart attack. It actually can improve your cholesterol levels. And I'm not just speaking to be speaking. There was these stats actually came out of Psychology Today. They actually did they did the research with Harvard. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. Okay. Helps you can sleep better, reduces joint pain. Why? Because a lot of us, especially women, that lower back pain that you're feeling, that's you harboring and holding all that trauma in, saying the words that you never said, just holding everything in, that the pain you feel in your left knee, all of that. You harbor and hold that anger and resentment in your body. It doesn't leave if you don't let it out. If you never heal it, guess what? It resides within you. And then you wonder why you're sick and your immune system is down. And just like why you're feeling all the pain and the angst in your body. Because you're holding and harboring all the resentment and anger and bitterness. Wishing bad things on people. And then that stuff is coming right back to you. It's not worth it. All right? And then, so another benefit is better relationships and better love. Like, can you imagine the fact that you think that you broke up with somebody, but yet you go in a new relationship and that person is still in that relationship? That's what happens when you don't forgive. That's what happens when you don't heal. They're all up in your new relationship, ruining it, tearing that thing apart. Oh, it drives me nuts. Going to meet somebody and all they talk about is everything the ex did and how they did it. And then the old friends, same thing with friendship group. You get into a new friendship group, you meet somebody new, and you're like all the things the old people did. So basically what you're saying is, I have no control over my life. I'm going to allow them and all their actions to control my every single step. I'm going to go in and I may make new friends, but only to a certain capacity, because when I let other people in, they did this to me. Oh, I'm going to go into a new relationship and I'm going to, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to say I'm going to love this person. I'm going to do all this thing to the extent, because when I let somebody in and I let my last ex in, this is what happened to me. Now, again, I said forgive. I didn't say forget, right? I'm not saying that we're not supposed to take the lesson for it, but just the lesson, not the person, and not looking to find that. It's like you walking in looking for something bad to happen. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Seriously. Like, and then you wonder why everything is a mess. Well, because those situations that happened in your past are still puppeteering your life. This is why it's so important to sit back with yourself. So the very first thing is like, well, how do I know? How do I know what's going on with me? Well, you have to sit with yourself long enough to hear you. I want you to get a journal and really write down all the things that have happened to you in your life. Really write it down so you can understand why you may be moving a certain way, why you may be talking a certain way, why your relationships don't go as far or as wide, right? What you need to understand what's going on with you. Okay? And write a people. So on this list, what you're doing is writing a list of people who have wronged you, in a sense. And so that's the only way we can work on forgiveness. You have to know who harmed and who did what. Okay? Now, again, this is a process. So when we talk about how we truly forgive, it's a process. It didn't happen overnight. I'm going to tell you some of the steps that you'll be forgiven, and I'll include me in it. So number one, you got to know what forgiveness is and why it matters. Like we just talked about the definition of it, but why does it matter? Because why do you want to walk around for the rest of your life allowing people to dictate your every move, your every step? People who are no longer in your life. Why does it matter? Because guess what? You become a healthier version of you when you learn to forgive. Okay? So why does it matter? And you want to ask yourself, why does it matter to you? Because it may matter for different things to me, right? For me, it was putting the end, to certain things. Okay. So why does it matter? Number two, address their inner pain. We just talked about it. You can't heal what you're unwilling to reveal. You can't heal what you're unwilling to reveal. Okay. So you have to address the inner pain. All right. That's number two. Number three, when it comes to your parents, your spouse, your significant other, your children, you want to empathize with the other person, right? Because I had to learn to do that. Like, so some of the things that happened with me and my mom when we were younger, I had to be like, well, what was it like for her? Right. And so I think for me, in this generation, we have access to so much more. We have access to the internet. I have access to therapists and coaches. My parents didn't have any of that stuff. So there was no one there to talk through the feelings and emotions and all the things that we get to do now. So I had to come to understand some of that and empathize maybe what she went through as a parent, and to understand that I just happen to have the ability and the capability to get help and healing for myself that opened me up to understand even what forgiveness is. So then I was understanding that my mother was raising me by fear of what the things that maybe happened to her. So she didn't want them to happen to me, never realizing that that's not how that works. And so that's how it happens when you raise kids out of fear of what you are so afraid happening to them. 9 times out of 10, you kind of sometimes force that on them to happen because you have such a grip on them. So then, things happen, and I'm not saying it's your fault. You have to be, when you do these videos and you're talking to the World Wide Web, I understand that things can be taken out of context, but I want to be clear that I'm not saying that at any time that anything happens to you, it's your fault. I'm just trying to get to the point of like why it's great to sometimes empathize when you're in that space. It's like, okay, what did my mom go through? And again, it was nothing detrimental. My mother never touched me sexually, anything like, because I understand people go through things like that. So I'm not talking about, remember my disclaimer, I'm not in depth with that when it comes to this video and talking about forgiveness. Okay. I'm not talking about people who are literally done sexual or physical harm to someone, right, and cause that type of trauma. I just want to be clear. All right. So next, let go of expectations. A lot of times expectations are the thing that kills us the most. You expect You expect people to act a certain way or be a certain way. Remember, forgiveness is for you. That person may not even believe they did anything wrong. This is why you have to work on forgiveness and healing yourself to let it go. Okay? The next thing you have to decide. Forgiveness is really a decision. It really is a decision. I had to make the decision to say, I am no longer going to allow these emotions and feelings to ruin my life, because it was. Now, I mean, I'm not saying I had a bad life, but it was ruining some great relationships. I had to decide I'm no longer going to allow that, right? And then lastly, I'm always going to tell you to get help. Get help. So let's go there. When it was time to deal with my sexual trauma, therapist had to go there, had to get help. It was beyond me. And a lot of times people don't want to address the situation. Well, if you are going through life and you're experiencing, difficult situation after difficult situation, the common denominator may just be that you don't have a forgiving heart and you think that you do. Okay? And remember, this is not just about forgiving the other person. I'm talking about forgiving yourself. You have to forgive you. You didn't know what you didn't know. I was even blaming myself at one point for being a kid and some man touching me because my booty was bigger than most kids. Like, what? Like, I know that this thing happens. This forgiveness is not just about this. It's about you. If you want an abundant life of love, joy, peace, happiness, health, and dare I say wealth, forgiveness has to be a part of it. You can no longer walk around with all that anger and vengeance in your heart. You have to say no to that to get to the other side of things. And remember, the best apology is changed behavior. Don't say that you're going to forgive yourself and then beat yourself up the very next moment. The best apology is changed behavior. So once you forgive yourself and you apologize to yourself, then it's time to change your behavior. Okay? So that's where getting help comes in at. That's where, getting with, if it's deep, again, you're working with a therapist. But if it's not as deep, then you can work with a coach, right? I think there's levels to things. So there's levels where you absolutely can sit and work with a coach, and they can help you with that. Because as a matter of fact, I did both. That's why I'm speaking from that perspective. Okay. And there's a book. Because I always like to give you, if you don't have an opportunity, or you can't get with a therapist or a coach right now, there's a book called Total Forgiveness by R.T. Kendall. Absolutely changed my life. It was actually gifted to me because I was running around saying, I forgive. And then when the situation, this is how you know you haven't forgive, right? The situation and a person name even came up, my whole body would twitch. Now, I could sit there with a smile on my face, but in the inside, I felt this angst. So if you are a person that say, I forgive them, I forgive. Okay. So when you sit and you think about the person, are you at peace? Are you still wishing them harm? How do you feel in your body? What is the first thought that really comes in your mind? That's how you'll know you're forgiven. And I really thought I had, and then I was triggered, and I was like, whoa. And then I knew I had more work to do, because I tend to want to get things over with quickly. But I had to understand that forgiveness is a process. But understand that when you forgive, your present can be so beautiful, which can lead to and will lead to a beautiful, abundant future. Forgiveness is for you, my friends. And I pray that you forgive so that you can let go and grow, so that you can have everything you desire. A lot of times we don't want to believe the truth of things, but the truth is that lack of forgiveness, that hate in your heart, is stopping you from getting to the next level of where you want to be. Again, we forgive, we don't forget. And what does that mean? We don't forget the lessons that we learned, and we take those lessons and we move forward. I hope that this has been a blessing to you. Again, you can always reach out to me at info@mosas.com. That's my email address, or you can www info@mosas.com. You can also reach out to me on my website as well, info@mosas.com or www.mosas.com. I will put it in the links in the bio so you can always message me so we can talk. And again, I can get more in depth about forgiveness and why it's just so important. I hope you have a beautiful, because your girl is about to be out of here tomorrow. Okay, so I'm really feeling on top of the world. But I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next Sunday.